Welcome to Zoom O'Clock with your host, Tessy Antony de Nassau. This podcast brings you enlightening discussions with leading experts and public figures directly to your ears.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Zoom O'Clock with your host, Tessy Antony de Nassau. Today's guest is a very interesting and innovative lady from the UK, Emma Kay, the co-founder of WalkSafe. Hi, Emma. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for your time in your busy schedule. I know that you had a BBC recording only a few hours ago in Richmond Park. I know that you have a 4-month-old daughter, which is almost the same age as my son Theodore. So I know how busy you are in your private life as well. And creating something so incredible to keep the ladies safe in the UK as well is definitely a topic I wanted to learn more about. So I asked you very kindly to join me on my podcast. Let me introduce you very briefly for the audience on our YouTube channel, video, and also on our podcast channels, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all major podcast channels. So Emma Kay is the co-founder of WalkSafe, and her impassionate social media posts following the murder of, very sadly, Sarah Everard, which made world news, meant the free app was downloaded over 500,000 times in just 2 weeks. The pregnant mother of one, so you were pregnant at the time when you started this, is determined to fund the app so it will remain free to women and other vulnerable groups. A former beautician, Emma came up with the idea of the app at dinner with her extended family after describing her own experience of gender harassment and what she felt would help. Fortunately, her brother-in-law is a technology expert, and he was able to devise the first-generation WalkSafe app. Emma describes the WalkSafe app as the app that shouldn't have to exist, but as the daughter of a policeman, she has a pragmatic approach to women's safety, and the WalkSafe app is testimony to that philosophy. Wow, Emma, I have so many questions for you. Let me start off with what is the app about and how does it work? Well, what it's about we just said, but how does it work?
Of course. Thank you so much. I'm just so happy to be here and talking with you. It's a great honor. So thank you. I think your podcast is amazing and everything you stand for is great. So our app, as we said, we really feel that it should be free to everyone. We believe that no one should have to pay for safety. Safety is a basic human right that we all deserve to walk down to the street on the streets safely and live our lives without threat of fear. So our app has multiple safety features, but the key piece to our app and what makes us really different to all the other apps out there is we use real police crime data that we get from the police API every month. And what that does is it allows our users to be able to spot trends and really understand where the recent crime hotspots are within that area. So we believe knowledge is power, and we want our users to feel informed and, like I said, empowered when they're out. So if they know what recent crime has taken place and where, that enables them to make safer decisions when they're out and about.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you. You know, I as we were preparing for the podcast, I also told you about my experience when I was walking down the streets in the evenings, you know, either after a drink or after a late work day. It would have not been a surprise to see me with a key in my hand. And I think London specifically now, I know that we have a pandemic of harassments in the streets all over the world, but London has definitely caught the attention of many media outlets around the world. Tell me a bit about that. How is it going in London at the moment?
Like you said, we are facing an epidemic of violence against women and girls. It has just been exhausting and heartbreaking that almost every every week there's another poor girl that's gone missing. There's been, another murder. It's just been relentless. We need more to be done. After the case of Sarah Everard, the police have been called into question. Their handling of it has not been great at all. And there's been a lot of mistrust in the police. And quite rightly so. It was awful what happened, and it needs to be investigated. So at the moment, what we're all calling for is the violence against women and girls to be placed as a strategic requirement, so it actually gets the funding and resources that it really deserves. So putting it at that same level as like counterterrorism, which is what we need right now, because we're undersourced, we've got half of our police forces have been cut around. I mean, even my local area, I don't have a local police station anymore. There's less police on the streets. We really need action. And the issue we're facing is there's been a lot of victim blaming. The response has been carry a rape alarm, or, we need more lighting, but it's bigger than that. It's not down to us just to keep ourselves safe. And that really frustrates me, because although I've got an app and although I'm petitioning for safer streets and I want more to be done, at the same time, like you said, Tessy, I've been a victim of assault, and I was taking all the necessary precautions at that time, and there was nothing more I could have done about it. This shouldn't be normalized, and I really want widespread change. And I really hope they can look at the victims bill, because at the moment victims are not being supported enough. Our rape convictions at an all-time low. Our reporting's at an all-time high. It's just we just need so much change, and we need it now.
So you were saying that you're the daughter of a policeman, right? How does that make your father feel, right? Because you're his girl, and you also are the mother now of a little girl. How does he handle this? Because you say there's a mistrust in the police force as well. So how can we kind of like stop this vicious circles of, mistrust and miscommunication and everything? Because, as your dad, there's also good people there. So how do we get this turned around, in your opinion?
100%. And I think it's always really important to caveat that with there are people who are striving for safer streets. And I've been fortunate enough to have been brought up around some really excellent police officers who've done excellent work in the field, and who, work tirelessly to create change. And they're just as devastated by this as we are. I think there's just a lot of frustration everywhere. I think that police would obviously like more funding, and they would like, I think at the moment we need more funding in that area in order for them to be on the streets, in order for them to be doing a better job, in order for change. I think they need more in that sector. I think he feels frustrated. I think that when he was a police officer, there were a lot more police about, there were a lot more police stations open. And obviously times have changed. It obviously be different people coming in and out of in Parliament has caused a lot of shuts, closures, like I said, with the stations. And I think I think he just feels frustrated. And I think he understands that being a woman, he's from the age of 13, he's understood that these things have been happening. And I think as a parent, you probably feel quite powerless. There's only so much you can do. And we used to have house rules at home. So he would instill, exactly like you said, when you're walking alone and you feel nervous, keys in the hand, you don't listen to music loud in your ears. You're aware of your surroundings, well-lit streets, look after your drink. If you go out, if you're going home, travel with people, try not to be alone. And I grew up thinking all these things were normal, that everyone thought the way I did. And it wasn't until I started up WalkSafe that I realised that not everyone does. And we all feel in fear. But I think there are some steps that we take and have to take in order to keep ourselves safe. And we shouldn't have to. The burden shouldn't just be on us, but we have to right now until things change. we all just have to be more aware. It's a sad fact of life at the moment.
So tell me a bit more about the app. So you say that there's real police data included in the app. What is the user journey if I would download the app, right? When I come to the UK now, what would I see? How does it work? And what if something would happen? Does the app also assist in some way or another to get me back to safety in case something does happen?
Good question. So we've got two sides. We've got our WalkSafe map. So that's the police data that you were talking about. You can zoom in and zoom out of that. And we are only UK based at the moment, so you can only see UK data. However, you can see where recent crimes such as mugging, such as assault and knife crime has taken place. And what that enables the user to do is, for instance, before I go to the shops for my little girl, my son, what I can do is I can plan my route and choose to take a safer route. So there's always a few paths around me that have had a lot of crime. I'm not going to take them down that route. I'll pick a safer route. So that's there to help kind of prevent before you go out your house. Yeah. And then you've got our safety functions. We've got tap safe. So tap safe is when you're walking alone, you're feeling nervous. You can pull out tap safe and you can press the tap safe button, and that will automatically alert your loved one. And it will say, Emma's feeling nervous, check in on her. If anything should happen to me and I stop tapping that button and that phone drops out of my hands, my loved one will get an automatic alert of my last known location and saying you need to check in on her. If everything's fine and I can walk out of wherever I am and I feel safe, I can simply come out of it and it will let my loved one know she's okay. We also have our home feature as well, which is before you go out, again, trying to take preventative measures as well. You can set your time of arrival. You think you're going to be home. And what that will do is at that time, if you're home, great. And it will let your loved one know you're home. If not, it tells your loved one to check in on you. And again, it will provide your last known location.
Yeah, that is really, really good because, often, and I have seen while I was in the military and did quite a lot of other things for safety for women around the world. And it's true that when something really happens, it's difficult to kind of like make yourself known then, because often in these situations, it's already too late, right? So having that prevention method that, as you say, using a tapping, just for people to know that you are feeling a bit uncomfortable. And also just the fact being on the phone, talking to someone, the perpetrators or trader often just back off by themselves because they know that you are, that someone is listening in already. So really, really good. So you said 500,000 times download. Can you share how many times, do you have data of how many times the tapping was used in that time that it has been? How old is the app now in total?
So the app's over a year old now. And actually, good point about the tapping. So last time I checked my data, we had seen that the tap safe function had been used 20,000 times in the last 6 months. So that's 20,000 times someone's felt unsafe and nervous and gone into that feature, which is an awful thing to feel. It's bittersweet. I love that my app's there and it can help people and they've got the comfort of knowing if something's there should they need it. But at the same time, it just breaks my heart that people are walking down the street and feeling nervous, that they've got to let a loved one know that they're feeling scared. We do actually have our new app version coming out in January, and we are creating a bit more of an inclusive app. So we'll have a big SOS button at the top of the page, and it will be a real-time safety sat nav. So you can follow someone in real time on their journey. And I'm really hoping that the new developments that we are working on to make it even more user-friendly will be even better for our users and hopefully really help. I mean, even if it helps one person in one bad situation, then we've done something right. So that's what we're hoping for, to help more people.
So 23,000 cases of tapping where people felt unsafe. in the last 6 months. Is it mostly women, I would assume, or do you have as well men? So males using the app as well?
Yes, it is both. I'd say 75% women. Yeah, it's awful. It just makes me feel so, like I said, I just wish the app didn't have to exist, but sadly there just is a place for it in the world right now. It just, like you said earlier, things aren't getting better and people are needing the comfort and the reassurance of something in their pocket that they feel they can use should they need it.
Absolutely. No, I think it's really important to say that it is 75% women, but that it is 25% men, because certainly in the military, I have seen that rape and sexual harassment does not just happen to women, but also to men, and also to men by men and to men by women. So it's good to know that there's an app out there for both genders, but for all people, no matter how you define yourself and your own gender. So yeah, very, very good. I think it's really fantastic. Definitely also because I have 2 teenage sons. They are mostly in the UK. And, I certainly know when they go and run some errands for me, for example, going to, let's say, Sainsbury's to get some milk or whatever for me. Because I want to give them as well the education of independence, right? At some point, I need to trust them that they can go and get some milk, right? But having something like that will definitely ease as well a mother's heart when you know that your child is outside, no matter what the age of the child is, right?
100%. And I think that's the reason why our app's been quite popular, is because we always say to people, we don't track you. You've got to be able to go into our app and basically open up that feature with someone else using the same feature. And that's an agreement that you're both using it. So unless you're in that app using that feature, we don't track. So it's important for people to know that, especially I think young teenagers, they don't want their mum thinking they're watching what they're doing all the time via our app. That's not how it works. I think parents really enjoy our app for that reason, that they can set the home safe feature before they go out. You need to be back by 12. If they're back by 12 and the mum checks in, it's all great. So I think, like you said, our features are used very much so with parents of children at the ages that yours are.
That is really fantastic. I saw as well in the communication that you shared with me, you mentioning that knife crime rose over 25% following the last lockdown. Why, in your opinion, then, why is that so? Is that because of COVID? Is that because of the loss of jobs? What is happening, in your opinion, that this is happening?
What was really staggering was actually, I think I live in a very nice suburban family area, and I actually had a fatal knife attack that took place at the bottom of my road, which is unheard of. And that happened a few months ago. And it took place at 4 p.m. when children were walking to and from school on a Monday afternoon. And it was so shocking. I mean, I couldn't even really believe it had taken place. And the one thing that I've definitely learned over the course of this year is no one's exempt. No area, no person, no time. All these instances, they don't happen in the dark. They're happening every day in, day out. And I think we work with a lot of police officers within WalkSafe. We've got some ex-Met who specialise in victim support and a detective, and we've got a crime analysis who works with the Met as well. And they predicted it going up, and they said that the issue's been is there's been a lot of people at home, like you said, loss of jobs, a lot of pent-up anger, a lot of people feeling very frustrated. And where some perpetrators would have gone out and continued doing these sorts of things, for instance, someone like the case of Sarah Everard, the man who committed that murder, he was flashing before he raped and killed her. So these people, they escalate. So they start off with flashing, then they move on to groping, then they move on to it all gets worse. And I think what happened when COVID happened was everyone was stuck in their houses, no one was going out. And I think a lot of that built up for a lot of people. And talking with the experts that I have said, it's quite scary. We're going to be due a huge spike. And that's exactly what's happened. That combined with the fact that, again, we've got not as many police on the streets. It's all a bit of a recipe for disaster at the moment. And the one thing that we're all trying to do is try to take personal safety into our own hands and trying to make sure that we're just keeping our wits about us. Like you said, I think that it's a big problem. And with knife crime as well, I think we've got a lot of... also with COVID, there's been a lot of things shutting down. So, youth groups and things that used to be open for young people to be able to go and have some, time with their friends. There's just been a lot of closures. There's not been as many places for people to go and hang out. Again, like you said, poverty. I just feel like it's just one thing after another at the moment. So I really hope that we can take some necessary steps. There has been a lot of knife amnesty boxes around London where people can go and drop off weapons, and once they're in the box, no one can take them back out, and then obviously once a week those knives are collected. I really hope we can start to do a bit more education within schools, and I think we've just got a long road ahead of us.
Oh, that's the first time I hear of these boxes. Do you think that it's going to be actually used by people who have these weapons at home, that they will just say, I bring them to a box and then I'm not going to get them back?
Do you know what? They actually have been quite popular. There are a few around London. There are also people who go and pick up knives at the moment. There's been a couple of... There's one guy called Courtney Barrett, and he's called the Knife Man, and he goes around certain areas and he picks up weapons. He says to them to be at a certain time, a certain place. He will take them from you and they discard of them in a safe way. There has been a rise of that at the moment because it's been such a big problem. And I think that the one thing that I've learned is there's been quite a few young people who've been taking kitchen knives, and they actually say that's become a really big problem. Young people getting ones from home. So I think it's not the best solution, but it is a good solution that people are doing at the moment, and it's being used. So it's great that people have thought to do it.
That sounds crazy, but yes, whatever works. But for me, I'm really a bit baffled, right? To not really know what to think of it, and just it is really scary. And I have heard of incidents as well. When you say you are in a good neighborhood, we live in a very good neighborhood in London, and there as well, just a street away, we had a lot of break-ins now. So I installed cameras in my house. We had a lot of stabbings as well in the middle of the street. And we had as well, I heard of a friend, her father in the Boltons, which is a really, really good area. There as well, there was an incident where an older man on the front door was just, his throat got cut. Not now, but I think that was a year ago at the beginning of the pandemic or something like that. So all areas, as you say, no one is safe anymore. And I think it's also by people losing their jobs and having these gang wars, as we all know in the UK, there's a lot of gang wars. I think these gang people are coming down now because, there's nothing to take anymore. If people lose their jobs, they go to the wealthy areas, right? To get what they need. And so I think now with the next lockdown just being just there again, sadly, I was supposed to fly in a few days to the UK, and that might be cancelled now. I think we need to brace ourselves, right?
I know. I'm dreading it. I hope for everyone's sake that with all the jabs, I don't know where you are, but in London, obviously, we're doing a lot of jab rollouts. We've got our boosters due, and I still think with the new variant, we probably will be, but it's a shame. But at the same time, we need to do what we need to do, I suppose, to protect everybody. But I agree. Recently, I had an incident myself where someone had flashed me only a few weeks ago at my property and was really verbally abusive. And I always say to my users and followers that I think it's really important that we log these things to help prevent these things from happening to other people. So I know it's really hard, and sometimes going through that process of talking to the police and logging it can feel like another job. But we always stress here that as long as you can try and find some support, and the police should be able to offer you some support at the time when you process that, it should help, especially if there's any evidence or anything with CCTV where they can help make sure they're keeping on top of these perpetrators so they don't continue to escalate. So I think that's all we can do at the moment, is keep logging these things.
100%. So we have run out of time already way long ago. So I need to wrap it up.
So much.
No, and it's such an important topic, isn't it? So one thing is WalkSafe. The app is on the Apple shop, I would assume, and Android as well, for people to freely download.
Yes,
perfect.
Exactly. Free download, no in-app subscriptions. So yeah.
Perfect. So if you're listening and want something good and vital for Christmas, please download the app for you and your loved ones for sure, to keep safe if you're living in the UK. And then if people want to get in touch with you, you talked about the victims bill as well, and also about maybe creating a new campaign, kind of like to pressure the government and our leaders to do make sure that there is more people in the armed forces again, recruitment and all of these things. How can they reach you?
So my personal handle was Emma K WalkSafe, and my WalkSafe account is walksafe.io. And I would love to hear from anyone if they got any questions. And we've also got our podcast called TalkSafe, where we discuss all of these sorts of safety issues with leading experts. And Tessy, I'd love to have you on mine. So perhaps we can, you could join me on TalkSafe one day.
Yeah, that sounds great. I happily return the favor, because I know that you're as curious as I am. And I think podcast is such a good medium to just learn very fast about a topic. About important topics. So with pleasure, we talk offline about that. So dear Emma, my last question, which has nothing to do, or maybe for you, but normally it's just a question out of the blue that I ask all of my podcast guests to finish off the podcast. What is a quote, book or podcast that you have read, listened, or seen recently where you were like, wow, people should know about this?
So my one podcast I love, and I've loved it for years, and I think it always speaks to me, is because I feel like I'm a mum first and foremost before anything. There's a podcast called Happy Mum, Happy Baby. Mm-hmm. And what I love is it's all about leading women across the UK and I wouldn't say the world. I don't know where I guess they've been from, but I love listening to mothers, working mothers, all mothers, about their experiences, and it always gives me great comfort that even in the hard times or times where I'm juggling WalkSafe and babies, that there are other mums out there doing exactly the same thing. So check it out. I love it.
Well, that's really nice. Yes, I will definitely check it out, because I love podcasts, and my husband, he actually is the one that got me the love to podcasts, because he is a podcast addict. He's on it all the time. And so, yeah, definitely will check it out. Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you for your time. And as always, for the ones listening and also looking at the YouTube video right now, please do subscribe, rate, comment, and share, because only like that can we really, really share interesting and timely topics such as this one to walk safe home in the UK with Emma. So thank you so much, Emma. Have a good afternoon.
It's been wonderful. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this Zoom o'clock. We hope this discussion was insightful and has provoked some new ideas for you. please share and subscribe. If you like to keep in touch with your host, you can find her on Instagram under Tessy_from_Luxembourg and on Twitter under Tessy_DE.